So let me go back to my drive over here. We had an Excel sheet on what to look for when you do your research. Let me close the midterm grade. We don't need it. This one, we can use that as a sample. Midterm grade, midterm. Here we go. This one. Oh, we have the research page, which would be better. Do 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 do. Is it over here? Yes. So we have the format from San Carlos, which I keep forgetting that we actually have it. You have your chapter 1, introduction, rationale, statement of problem, objective, scope and limitations, definition of terms. So why is this so important? It really because it highlights what problem you need to solve. So it's not just I need to design a building, it has this many rooms, but what specifically is your building trying to solve aside from the need for more classrooms? So you can, this is where you can get creative. You can try to solve let's see, circulation problems, user experience problems. What kinds of problems? Like moving from around the building. You could like focus on acoustics in the classroom. Like maybe your experience that when you're at the back of the classroom, you can't hear your teacher as well, so it doesn't make your learning good. So this is a very good project for you to really like express your creativity and like look at problems that you yourself have experienced because most of you have spent your lives in classrooms or before the pandemic anyway. So you can identify problems that are may not have been addressed in the design brief. So that's how you make your design stand out. And then your objectives naturally come from your problem statement. What happens is some students go directly to the objectives. I want sustainability. I want a natural ventilation, cross ventilation, stacking. But they're not thinking about what problem in their building they're trying to solve. They're just like skipping directly to the solution of the objectives without really highlighting a problem. And then you feel this sort of gap or like difficulty when you're in your kanang design development or your schematic phase. Lutaw, you feel kind of lost. You don't have a direction. You're just putting rooms together without really any kind of thinking as to what your end goal is. And then that's why having your statement of the problem ready in the research phase would really help you. And the better your statement of the problem is, the better your design will be because you are guided and you know where you're going. The rest of the stuff for me, scope and limitations, definition of terms, not so important at this level. Since we already know the scope and limitations, design the building, your boundary is there. You don't need to think about costing so much. You can just have like estimates. Definition of terms, like any kind of new terms that you're going to put into your project, like thinking about accessibility, maybe some solar panels. Well, how do solar panels work? Actually, we can discuss that. Um, and other like sort of innovative technologies that you might be able to put into your building. And the other big thing here is review of related lit. So I think I just copy pasted this from my bank requirements. So what are the different spaces in in your school? So all you need to do is very carefully go through your design brief because like as we experienced last Monday, a few of you did not really go through the brief uh, with as much care as you should have. So let me just close this. Close this. I'll just call this like I'll close this. Yes, mechanical system discussion. Discussion. Okay, closing that. So let's open up the brief again. AR3100 folder. Okay. The search bar is really what I should be using on Windows. Let's see, final 222, page 1. So really, just here in the first paragraph, your concern is function. Overall costing of about 120 million pesos. Building satisfy the guidelines of the building code. PWD friendly, accessible, with ramps. Earth moving should be minimal, and the building should blend and conform with its natural surroundings and neighboring buildings. Sorry, I took a Skyflakes at the wrong time. So already, you don't have to worry so much about aesthetics because Brother Bella really made function the highlight. Also, you don't have to worry about a very dynamic or what do you call this organic Zaha Hadid Frank Gehry looking building because the goal of the project is to maintain a budget. 120 million is not that much. That's almost like nearing the low cost range, especially for the size of the building that we're going to design. Safety guidelines, National Building Code, just follow them. You already know how to use it. No elevator installed, 4-story limit. You already know how tall your building is. PWD friendly accessible or PWD friendly. I don't know why. Maybe there should be another comma there. Accessible with ramps. Earth moving should be minimal, so we need to study the slope. That's why we're making the model. And then just make sure you have all the spaces over here. Classrooms, administration offices, student services, and student activities. And the phase two, this is for the expansion plan, biology, chemistry, and physics rooms. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. And then really, I really want to, again, highlight the importance of really focusing on your statement of the problem. Am I recording? Because once you have that very clear, very specific, your design process will be a lot easier. So just for example, over here, this is, oh wait, there's a question. So regarding case studies about the detention ponds, we're having a hard time looking for case studies that are applicable to Atong Plate. Do you have any suggestion about the case studies during this part? Okay. If you can't find buildings, maybe you can just include what are detention ponds and how do we use them? Dry detention ponds. Detention pond. So instead of looking for buildings that have dry detention ponds, maybe you can look for areas that have dry detention ponds. There's a study here on ResearchGate, design and use. Design and use. We have one for SCD from SCDC, SCDC, scdhec.gov. What is this? South Carolina. So when and where to use it? Kana siya, average pollutant removal capability, images of what the dry detention pond needs. Required maintenance, note erosion of pond banks, semi-annual inspection, maintenance. So I think this will be what we need. If we can't find it in a building, I just want you to include a short, maybe one paragraph, 100 to 200 words describing what a dry detention pond is and what are the different maintenance and requirements for it so that you are aware, so that I know that you know how to maintain and use a dry detention pond. So if you can't find it in buildings, it's okay to just use um, reports about detention ponds in general lang. So we have a
Sir,
design.
could you send the
Hmm.
PDF for that for the
Oh yeah, I can
detention
send you
pond?
this one. I can put it in the chat. Okay, there. And maybe this one as well. This is ResearchGate. Water sensitive urban design. I can actually download this. Can I download this? I'll put it on Facebook as well. This is one of some drawings, which are very good. So let's see. I think you can use your student privileges, student access to download reports from ResearchGate. This one is in Kunching City. Sorry, I'm like hungry. Kuching City is in, where are we? In Malaysia, northeastern Malaysia, in Sarawak. Let's look at this report. Introduction, dry detention pond, how to use them, how to design them, location, etc. It's only 5 pages long. Let me rename this and share it with the class. What's the title called? Water sensitive urban design. Okay, I just call that water sensitive urban design. What the? Okay, it's because it's still open. Let me close this. I accidentally clicked AutoCAD. No. Try again. Written by, always cite your sources, Mr. Darren Ma and Putu Hena. Let's just say by Ma and Putu Hena. Let's also write the year. Published in 2014. Let's see. Rename. Let's put 2014. Ma and Putu Hena. The heck did I open it again? Close. Putu Hena. And then upload it to our, see here, group. So that's a bonus one from me. Try to find another one. Open. Bonus research for those who haven't started. Data. Okay. Okay. So where were we? Yeah. So once you're we're still recording. So once your problem statement is very clear, it'll be easier for you to design. Which brings me to my own project over here. So let me zoom in a bit. Can I make this view full screen? And oh crap, I forgot to zoom in before I full screen. Let's say 200. View full screen. So this is more of an urban planning public space project. So when my former student, a Mr. Elizar Sabinay, who works for an NGO called Cebu Leads Foundation, approached me with the idea to like come up with a what is called a tactical urbanism tactical urbanism proposal. So what tactical urbanism is, that's the solution, is like closing down streets for pedestrianization, basically making removing cars from streets and putting people back in streets. That's basically the goal. So that's the solution. And the problem is, we didn't have a problem. The problem is, where do we apply this in Cebu City? So I struggled for like a couple weeks because they were very vague about their requirements. They just really wanted a tactical urbanism project, and I was very much interested in like doing one. So much so, so interested that I decided to do it for free. So the site ended up being in front of Basilica del Santo Niño. So for those not familiar, let me open up Basilica del Santo Niño over here. It's in the downtown, old downtown of Cebu City. Cebu, yep, over here next to the Plaza Independencia, Magellan's Cross, the City Hall, and the Chinese Heritage Museum, and of course the Cebu Metropolitan Cathedral. So why this area and the whole of Cebu? Mostly because there has already been existing studies. It was looking for those studies, which took a while. Thankfully, we had help from architect Neil Manharis and people from the Cherish Foundation. Other architects in the faculty like pointed me to the direction of the existing studies. So this was the research. This was my research phase, looking for existing studies to base my site selection on. That also reminds me, we need to do a discussion of site selection. Anyway, so that's why this area was like highlighted. And I think I also have experience back when I was like fourth year, we made some proposals for Colon Street over here, over here, Colon Street. And then older versions of this report was a lot longer. Let me try to open that up for you guys. Do I need this? I don't need. We don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that. Let's see. Copy of tactical note. So notice in this previous version, it has over 11 pages. And you see, you're going really into detail about problem statement, scope and limitations. This was really more traditional research format. And I thought it was very difficult to read. So that's why I decided to condense the information from like 11 pages to 4 pages. And like, I'm sure you know how difficult that is to like condense 10 pages worth into half the page, half the page numbers. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at here is that when we discovered the site, then we could really point out the specific problems that our design, our proposal needed to solve. So for like context, more context, really need context. I needed to visit the site. So let me just go to my channel over here. That's my head. And then I'm not sure if you guys can hear the sounds, but this was October 10, maybe the week before October 10. And then maybe like October 2-ish or October, yeah, October 2-ish. It took me like a week to like get this plastered onto YouTube. So on this side of the basilica, you can hear the tugs tugs disco music. So going back to my proposal over here, zooming in. So the idea is we want more people to visit or visit Basilica del Santo Niño, and like so that because of COVID, they needed more space. So this area over here is already closed from Fridays like morning to afternoon and Sundays. No, yeah, Fridays morning to afternoon and Sundays morning to afternoon. So now it's all about designing where do we put the shelter or like the shading devices like tents and umbrellas, etc. And one of the really struggles was how do we identify these spaces is that I couldn't imagine what it was like on this area without visiting it. So that's why like site visits, Google Maps, everything was very important. So before this version of arrangement, let me open up my AutoCAD over here. I just had like a symmetrical, very basic layout. So imagine just like a row of tents, similar dimensions and designs on both sides of the street. So this is D. Hacosalem Street on the western side and P. Borgo Street on the eastern side. It wasn't until after I visited the site that I realized that this side here on D. Hacosalem wasn't very good for religious activities. Mostly because of the noise coming from the supermarket over here on this side. So the first version of the plan looks something like this. So it's just in white are the row of tents, and they're all symmetrical. But once I visited the site, I could clearly see a problem that this area is really not conducive for religious activities or religious gatherings. Therefore, in the current version, we also talked with the priest in this area that there are lesser tents in this area and there are more tents on the P. Borgo side. And this is the pilgrimage center over here. This space here is a pilgrimage center. And this is where sort of most of the services are being held currently because of the pandemic. It's open air and there should be enough space for people to attend. But as you can see in the video, because like it's raining and there's still so many people who want to visit, you see them like crowding underneath the arcaded walkways. And then while only a few people are like really next to the pilgrimage center because they have umbrellas. So ideally, the main problem now is how do we kanang allow people, more people to visit the church and like protect them from the elements. So basically, the solution becomes very obvious once you have the problem. So we have umbrella set up over here, and then we have bigger tents set up like this. So the purpose of the umbrellas is, so they look like this. Come on, work with me, Google. They look like this. Let me zoom in a bit more. To provide shading while not while allowing for views towards the basilica. So the bigger tents are really mainly for walking and like different activities that we have planned. I think currently we're in the talks for having chalk art on the streets, just to give people a reason to visit. And it's while it's like the chalk art will still be related to like a Christian, what do you call this? Christian messages, maybe like because it's 500 years of Christianity in Cebu. So hopefully the space is enough for like chalk artists to draw on the streets, and it will give something it'll give something a reason for visitors to come here, aside from just the attending of mass. So that's why we have the umbrellas there, and the bigger tents are really so people can like walk easier. I'm not really, the goal is for people not to gather in this like tented areas, and yeah, these bigger areas. And even if they do, they should have enough space to like physically distance. But the main gathering spaces for religious activities are really the umbrellas. And why umbrellas is because you can sort of control the behavior of people. So if it rains, they'll stay underneath the umbrellas. And then if you space the umbrellas according to COVID protocols, they should be following standard physical distancing requirements. So that's basic. You can have more control. Basically, is why we opted for umbrellas. We might just even remove the tents altogether because they're like expensive. But anyway, yeah, that's a long-winded example of how identifying the problem can really help you with your design process. And the earlier you have a clear and good problem statement, the easier your design process will be. So that's really what I wanted to highlight with that. So I'll stop recording here. I don't think there are any questions on that. I think it's very obvious. Make your